Angel Peters tightened her grip on the edge of the rickshaw as it rattled over the cobbled driveway of Whitefield College. Her heart pounded, not from the bumpy ride, but from the stares of the students gathered near the grand gates. The school loomed ahead, a majestic structure of gold-plated pillars and pink marbled walls. It was a stark contrast to her modest arrival. Her uniform, a multicolored skirt and a pristine white shirt paired with a gold and pink jacket, marked her as a student of this elite institution. Yet, the laughter and whispers from the crowd said otherwise. "Who arrives in a rickshaw to Whitefield?" someone snickered. Angel stepped out, her chin held high, refusing to meet their mocking gazes. Her dark, melanin-rich skin glowed in the sunlight, and her braided hair swung confidently as she walked toward the gates. Behind her, the rickshaw driver called out, "Good luck, ma'am," his voice kind and supportive. But luck wasn't what Angel needed. She had secrets, and those secrets would shake the foundations of Whitefield College. Angel walked through the opulent gates of Whitefield College, her posture calm but her senses alert. The sprawling campus was a sight to behold, luxurious buildings with intricate gold designs and sprawling lawns trimmed to perfection. Everything about this place screamed wealth, privilege, and exclusivity. Her arrival was met with stares that lingered too long. Groups of boys in crisp white shirts and tailored gold and pink jackets whispered among themselves. Girls in perfectly pleated multicolored skirts and identical jackets pretended to ignore her but couldn't hide their disdainful glances. "Does she even belong here?" whispered one girl, her voice carrying over the murmur of the crowd. Angel didn't flinch. Her calm demeanor belied the storm brewing within. She was here for a reason, and no amount of judgmental stares or whispered insults would deter her. At the main entrance, a tall, striking boy stood out among the crowd. His chiseled features and confident stance marked him as someone important. He looked her up and down, his expression unreadable. "Angel Peters, right?" he asked, his tone neutral but laced with curiosity. "Yes," she replied firmly, meeting his gaze. "Welcome to Whitefield College," he said, stepping aside. The tension in the air thickened as everyone waited to see what would happen next. Angel stepped further into the lavish courtyard, feeling the weight of countless eyes on her. The tall boy who had greeted her earlier, whose name she later learned was Depo, was not just anyone, he was the head prefect, and his every action seemed to carry the gravity of authority. "You'll find your dormitory straight ahead," Depo said, gesturing toward a grand building adorned with gold railings and arched windows. "But be prepared. This school isn't easy for newcomers." His words hung in the air, ambiguous yet sharp enough to elicit murmurs from the surrounding students. Angel nodded. Politely, her expression unreadable. "Let's see how long she lasts," someone whispered, loud enough for Angel to hear. She didn't flinch, though her grip on the strap of her bag tightened. As she moved toward the dormitory, she passed by a group of girls, their uniforms pristine, their postures poised like royalty. One of them, a striking girl with a sharp jawline and an air of authority, stepped forward. "Angel, is it?" she said with a mocking smile. "You may want to avoid stepping on the wrong toes." Angel paused, meeting her gaze. "Thanks for the advice," she said calmly before walking away. Inside her new room, the opulence continued. The dorm was unlike anything she'd ever seen, spacious, with polished wooden floors, velvet curtains, and beds that looked like they belonged in a palace. But Angel wasn't here to admire the decor. She had her reasons for coming to Whitefield, and nothing, no matter how lavish or hostile, would distract her. Angel settled into her dorm room, her thoughts racing as she unpacked her belongings. Despite the grandeur of her surroundings, she felt the weight of her classmates' judgment hanging heavy in the air. The room was luxurious, yes, but it was also a battlefield in disguise. Just as she placed her last book on the shelf, the door opened abruptly. Standing there was the girl who had mocked her earlier, Chioma, the de facto queen bee of Whitefield College. Her perfectly tailored wine and gold jacket and flawless makeup were a testament to her elite status. I thought I'd pay a visit to the charity case, Chioma said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Her entourage of equally polished girls lingered behind her, giggling. Angel straightened her posture and turned to face her. If you came to talk, then talk. I have things to do. Chioma's smile faltered for a moment before she regained her composure. Listen, Angel. This school isn't for everyone. You might think you belong here, but trust me, you don't. Angel stepped closer, her dark eyes locking onto Chioma's. That's for me to decide, not you. For a moment, silence filled the room as the two girls stood face to face, the tension palpable. Then, with a dismissive wave, Chioma turned and walked out, leaving Angel to her thoughts. Angel knew that this was only the beginning. Chioma and her circle of influence might see her as an outsider, but they had no idea who she really was, or what she was capable of. Angel adjusted her belongings on the luxurious bed, her thoughts racing. The dormitory was beyond anything she had ever experienced. Polished wooden floors reflected the sunlight streaming in through the velvet curtains, and every piece of furniture was adorned with intricate gold accents. Just as she folded her last shirt, the door creaked open. There stood Chioma, her sharp features accentuated by the golden hue of the afternoon light. Dressed immaculately in her wine skirt, white shirt, and wine and gold blazer, she exuded authority. Behind her, too, girls peered over her shoulder, their expressions a mix of curiosity and condescension. Angel didn't look up immediately, but the atmosphere shifted as Chioma stepped into the room. So, this is the charity room, Chioma began, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I suppose they're giving these beds to anyone now. Angel stood straight, meeting Chioma's gaze. If you've come to welcome me, you can leave now. I've already made myself comfortable. The girls behind Chioma gasped, their perfectly plucked eyebrows arching in disbelief. Chioma's smirk wavered for a fraction of a second before she chuckled. Oh, I like you. But don't get too comfortable. Whitefield has a way of showing people their place. Angel tilted her head, her confidence unshaken. Good thing I know mine. Chioma studied her for a moment before turning on her heel. Enjoy your stay, she said, her tone laced with veiled warning. The entourage followed her out, leaving Angel in the golden-lit room. The tension lingered like a shadow, but Angel didn't let it rattle her. The golden rays of the afternoon sun filtering through the dormitory's velvet curtains did little to soften the harsh atmosphere. Angel sat on the polished floor, her shoulders trembling as silent tears streamed down her face. Around her, the dormitory buzzed with tension. She's just pretending, a girl sneered, pouring water from a glass onto Angel's hair. The cold liquid trickled down her face, mingling with her tears. Who even cries over something this small? Drama queen. That's enough, snapped Depo, the tall prefect who had been watching the scene unfold from the doorway. His authoritative tone cut through the noise, silencing the mocking laughter. Chioma, standing at the edge of the group with her arms crossed, smirked. Oh, come on, Depo. Let her toughen up. She needs to understand that Whitefield isn't for the weak. Angel slowly looked up, her teary eyes locking with Chioma's. There was no weakness in her gaze, only simmering determination. I didn't come here to impress any of you, Angel said, her voice hoarse but steady. Keep mocking me, pouring your water, and whispering your lies. It won't change who I am. The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Depo stepped forward, his brow furrowed. This stops now, he said firmly, looking directly at Chioma. Angel deserves respect, and anyone who has an issue with that will answer to me. Chioma's smile wavered, but she quickly recovered, tossing her hair. Whatever you say, Depo. But don't think this changes anything, she said, turning on her heel and walking out with her entourage trailing behind her. Depo extended a hand to Angel, who hesitated for a moment before taking it. He helped her to her feet, his expression softening. Are you okay? Angel nodded, wiping her tears. "Thank you." "You don't need to thank me," Depo replied. "But if you ever need help, you know where to find me." As he left, Angel stood in the middle of the luxurious dormitory, her heart pounding. She wasn't sure who she could trust, but one thing was clear, she would not let them break her. The dormitory settled into a tense silence after the altercation. Angel sat on her bed, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the embroidery on the wine gold blazer folded beside her. The faint hum of conversation from the hallway seeped through the closed door, a reminder that the storm wasn't over, it was merely brewing elsewhere. A soft knock broke her thoughts. She hesitated before calling out, "Come in." The door creaked open, and a slender girl with braided hair peeked inside. "Hey," she said timidly. "Can I come in?" Angel recognized her from earlier, one of the quieter students who hadn't joined in the mockery. "Sure," Angel replied, motioning for her to sit. The girl perched on the edge of the bed, fidgeting with the hem of her blazer. "I'm Tenny," she introduced herself. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what happened." Chioma can be intense. Angel studied her, searching for hidden motives, but Tenny's earnest expression was disarming. "Thanks," Angel said, her tone cautious. "But you don't have to apologize for her." Tenny nodded. "I know, but still. I thought you might need a friend." The words hung in the air, fragile yet powerful. Angel gave her a small smile. "I think I do." As they spoke, voices rose from the hallway. Angel and Tenny exchanged a look before stepping out to investigate. At the far end of the corridor, Chioma was in a heated argument with Depo. Though their words were muffled, the tension was clear. Students lingered nearby, whispering and watching the spectacle unfold. "Why are you always defending her?" Chioma's voice carried over the murmurs. "What's so special about her?" Depo's response was calm but firm. "Because she's done nothing wrong. You're just threatened because she doesn't bow to you." Chioma's face reddened with fury, but she didn't respond. Instead, she turned and stormed away, her entourage trailing behind her. Angel's chest tightened as she watched the scene. She didn't want to be the center of this war, but it seemed inevitable. As the crowd dispersed, Depo caught her eye and nodded subtly, a silent reassurance. Tenny leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have no idea what you've stepped into, do you?" Angel frowned. "What do you mean?" Tenny hesitated before replying, "There's more to Chioma's hatred than you realize. And I think it has something to do with you." The corridor fell into a hushed stillness as Chioma disappeared around the corner, her sharp words lingering in the air. Angel stood frozen, Tenny's cryptic comment echoing in her mind. "What do you mean?" Angel asked, her voice steady but laced with unease. Tenny glanced around to ensure no one was listening. "Chioma's family is connected to this school in ways you wouldn't believe," she began, lowering her voice. "Her father sits on the board of directors, and they've always been untouchable here. But you're different. She sees you as a threat." Angel frowned. "Why would she see me as a threat? I just got here." Tenny hesitated before continuing. "It's not just about who you are now, Angel. It's about where you come from. There are rumors that your admission wasn't random, that someone powerful ensured you got in." Angel's chest tightened. "That's ridiculous. I earned my spot here." Tenny nodded quickly. "I believe you. But Chioma doesn't see it that way. She's convinced you're here to undermine her." Before Angel could respond, a deep voice interrupted them. "You should be careful." Both girls turned to see Depo standing nearby, his expression unreadable. He stepped closer, his hands tucked into the pockets of his wine gold blazer. "Chioma doesn't fight fair. If she's after you, it's for a reason." Angel crossed her arms, meeting his gaze. Then maybe she should tell me what that reason is instead of playing games. Depo sighed, his gaze softening. It's not that simple. This school has its secrets, Angel. And whether you like it or not, you're now a part of them. Tenny shifted uncomfortably. She should know about the Peters Trust. Angel's brow furrowed. The what? Depo hesitated, glancing at Tenny, who nodded encouragingly. The Peters Trust is one of the largest endowments this school has ever received. It funds scholarships, programs, even part of the new dormitory. And? Angel prompted, her confusion growing. And, Depo continued carefully, it's rumored to have come from your family. Angel stared at him, her mind racing. That's impossible. My family doesn't have that kind of money. Depo's gaze was steady. Are you sure? The question lingered in the air, heavy with implication. Angel's heart pounded as she realized that everything she thought she knew about her life might not be true. Angel sat in the quiet of her dorm room, the echoes of her earlier conversation with Depo and Tenny replaying in her mind. The Peters Trust? The idea seemed absurd. Her family had always struggled to make ends meet. Where could such wealth possibly come from? A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Tenny, holding a slim folder in her hands. I found something, she whispered, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. What is it? Angel asked, her pulse quickening. Tenny opened the folder to reveal an old newspaper clipping. The headline read, Peters Family Philanthropy Funds Prestigious Schools. Beneath it was a black and white photo of a man and woman standing in front of a large building that looked eerily familiar. Angel stared at the photo, her hands trembling as she reached for the paper. Who are they? She asked, though her voice barely carried. I don't know, Tenny admitted. But look at the name on the building. Angel's eyes scanned the image until they landed on the plaque above the entrance. It read, Donated by the Peters. Her breath caught. The resemblance was uncanny, the man in the photo had her father's sharp jawline, the woman her mother's kind eyes. It didn't make sense. Her parents had never spoken of wealth or philanthropy. They had always been simple, hardworking people. This can't be real, Angel murmured. My parents would have told me. Maybe they couldn't, Tenny suggested. Or wouldn't. Before Angel could respond, another knock startled them. This time, it was Depo. He stepped inside, closing the door firmly behind him. You need to see something, he said, his expression grave. Depo led them to the school library, a grand room filled with towering shelves and the faint scent of aged paper. In the corner was an archive room, accessible only to senior prefects like Depo. He unlocked the door, motioning for them to follow. Inside, the air was colder, the shelves lined with leather-bound records. Depo pulled out a thick book labeled Whitefield Archives, Donors and Benefactors. Flipping through the pages, he stopped at a familiar name. Peters Trust. Angel leaned over to read, her heart pounding. The entry detailed massive donations spanning decades, all tied to the Peters family. It mentioned scholarships, dormitory renovations, and even the establishment of the school's iconic library. I don't understand, Angel said, her voice trembling. If this is my family, why would they hide it? Depo and Tenny exchanged a glance. There's one more thing, Depo said, pulling out a sealed envelope tucked behind the book's back cover. Written on the front in bold script was a name, Angel Peters. Angel stared at it, her hands frozen. Why would this be here? Only one way to find out, Depo said, handing her the envelope. With shaking fingers, Angel opened it. Inside was a letter, the handwriting delicate and familiar. It read. Dearest Angel. If you are reading this, the truth has finally found you. Everything we did to protect you. You come from a legacy greater than you could ever imagine, but with it comes danger. Be careful who you trust. Your journey is just beginning. Mama. Angel sank into a nearby chair, her mind spinning. Danger? Legacy? What could her parents have been hiding? Angel stared at the letter, her fingers gripping the edges tightly. Her mother's handwriting was unmistakable. Each word felt like a weight pressing on her chest. What does it mean? Tenny asked cautiously, her eyes darting between the letter and Angel's face. Angel shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know. I had no idea any of this existed. Depo tapped the book's page. If the Peters Trust is tied to your family, then someone here knows more than they're letting on. My guess? The board of directors. They'd have to approve any donation of this size. Angel's thoughts raced. Her parents had worked tirelessly to give her a chance at education, yet they had never mentioned a connection to Whitefield College. What danger could have forced them to bury such a monumental part of their lives? We need more answers, Angel said firmly, folding the letter and slipping it into her blazer pocket. How do we find out who's behind the trust? Depo leaned against the table, his expression thoughtful. There's a gala this weekend. It's an annual fundraiser, and most of the board members will be there. We could start by listening in, seeing who's connected to the trust. Angel hesitated. That sounds risky. Tenny gave a nervous laugh. This whole thing is risky. But if we don't try, you'll never know the truth. Angel sighed, knowing they were right. The gala could provide the answers she desperately needed. But it could also expose her to whoever her parents had tried to protect her from. The night of the gala arrived quickly. The school's grand ballroom was transformed into a glittering spectacle of luxury. Gold chandeliers hung from the high ceilings, casting warm light over the elegantly dressed guests. Students mingled in formal attire, their uniforms replaced by gowns and suits. Angel entered cautiously, her sleek wine-colored gown blending with the opulent surroundings. Depo and Tenny flanked her, both scanning the room with subtle determination. There, Depo whispered, nodding toward a group of older men and women standing near the stage. That's the board. Angel's heart raced as she observed them from a distance. They were engaged in animated conversations, their laughter echoing through the room. One man, in particular, caught her attention. His salt and pepper hair and commanding presence seemed familiar, though she couldn't place him. That's Chief Okone, Tenny whispered. He's the head of the board. If anyone knows about the Peters Trust, it's him. As they moved closer, a waiter passed by with a tray of champagne flutes. Depo grabbed one and handed it to Angel. Blend in, he said. And don't draw attention to yourself. Angel nodded, taking a sip to calm her nerves. She was about to turn away when Chief Okone's gaze locked onto hers. For a moment, he froze, his expression shifting from surprise to recognition. Angel Peters, he said, his deep voice cutting through the chatter. What a surprise to see you here. Angel's encounter with Chief Okone lingered in the back of her mind, but her focus soon shifted to surviving the relentless bullying at Whitefield College. Chioma and her followers made it their mission to humiliate her at every opportunity, from tripping her in the cafeteria to spreading rumors about her unworthy place at the school. One afternoon, Angel found herself cornered in the library by Chioma and her entourage. You really don't know when to quit, do you? Chioma sneered, blocking Angel's path. You think hanging out with Depo and Tenny makes you untouchable? Angel stood her ground, refusing to look intimidated. I'm not here for you, Chioma. I'm here to get an education. Chioma laughed mockingly. Education? Let's see how well you can focus when you're cleaning mud off your books. With a signal, one of her friends dumped a handful of dirt onto Angel's open bag, ruining her neatly arranged textbooks. Angel clenched her fists, holding back tears. One day, you'll regret this, she said, her voice steady despite the humiliation. Doubt it, Chioma replied with a smirk. You're nothing but a charity case. Weeks passed, and Angel quietly endured the torment while excelling in her studies. She poured her frustration into her academics, determined to prove her worth. Depo and Tenny remained by her side, offering encouragement and support. Then, one fateful day, everything changed. The school held an annual Founders' Day celebration, a grand event where alumni and benefactors were invited to honor the institution's legacy. Students were required to attend in their formal uniforms, but Angel had other plans. She decided it was time to stop hiding. The hall buzzed with excitement as the event began, with students and staff gathered to watch the proceedings. Suddenly, the grand doors opened, and all eyes turned to see who had entered. It was Angel. She stepped in wearing an exquisite gown that shimmered under the chandelier lights. Her hair was styled elegantly, and her presence commanded attention. Behind her walked Chief Okon, along with other board members, all beaming with pride. Gasps echoed through the room as whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that Angel Peters? Why is she with Chief Okon? What's going on?" Chioma's face turned pale as Angel approached the stage, where the headmistress stood ready to make an announcement. The headmistress cleared her throat, silencing the murmurs. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce one of our most esteemed benefactors, the Peters family. Today, we celebrate not only their contributions to this institution but also the legacy of their youngest member, Angel Peters." The room erupted in shock as the truth unraveled. Angel was not a charity case, she was the heiress to the Peters Trust, the largest endowment in the school's history. Chioma's jaw dropped as Angel took the microphone. "To everyone who doubted me," Angel began, her voice steady and confident, "thank you. You've made me stronger. And to those who stood by me, you've made me unstoppable." The crowd erupted into applause, but Chioma remained frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief. Angel met her gaze and smiled. "Don't worry, Chioma. I'm sure you'll figure out your place soon enough." As Angel descended from the stage, Depo and Tenny rushed to her side, their faces beaming with pride. "You did it," Tenny whispered. "You showed them." Angel smiled, feeling a newfound sense of freedom and power. The girl who had been bullied and underestimated was gone. In her place stood the rightful heiress, ready to claim her destiny. The applause in the hall was thunderous, echoing off the high ceilings as Angel stepped off the stage. Each step she took felt lighter, as though she was shedding the weight of every insult, every whispered rumor, and every act of cruelty she had endured. Chioma remained rooted in place, her expression oscillating between shock and rage. Her entourage of followers whispered among themselves, their confidence in their leader visibly shaken. Angel approached her with a composed smile. "Funny, isn't it?" Angel said softly, her tone laced with irony. "The charity case turned out to own the school." Chioma struggled to respond, but no words came. Her silence was louder than any apology she could have mustered. Before the tension could build further, Depo and Tenny appeared by Angel's side. "I think we've had enough drama for one night," Depo said, placing a supportive hand on Angel's shoulder. "Absolutely," Tenny chimed in, her grin infectious. "Time to enjoy being the star of the evening." Over the next few weeks, the atmosphere at Whitefield College shifted dramatically. Angel's transformation from the bullied scholarship girl to the celebrated heiress was the talk of the campus. Students who once mocked her now sought her favor, though Angel kept her circle small and loyal. Chioma, on the other hand, found herself increasingly isolated. Her cruel reign had collapsed under the weight of Angel's revelation, and her former followers distanced themselves from her. One afternoon, she approached Angel in the library, her usually confident demeanor replaced by hesitation. "I wanted to say. I'm sorry," Chioma said, her voice unsteady. Angel looked up from her book, studying her for a long moment. "Sorry for what?" she asked calmly. "For everything you said. Everything you did." Chioma nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "Yes. I was wrong. Angel considered her response carefully. "I forgive you," she said at last. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I hope you use this as a chance to grow." Chioma nodded silently and walked away, her shoulders slumped. With the weight of her past lifted, Angel embraced her newfound role as the heiress of the Peters Trust. She worked closely with the school's board to ensure that more underprivileged students were given opportunities to succeed. Her name became synonymous with resilience, kindness, and leadership. At the end of year assembly, Angel was invited to deliver a speech. Standing on the stage, she looked out at the sea of faces, some familiar, some new, all watching her with admiration. "When I arrived here, I was underestimated and ridiculed," Angel began. "But I learned that our worth isn't defined by how others see us. It's defined by how we rise above the challenges they throw at us." Her words were met with a standing ovation, solidifying her place as not just an heiress but an icon of hope. Years later, as Angel walked through the gates of Whitefield College as an alumna, she marveled at how far she had come. The school, once a place of torment, was now a symbol of her triumph. She smiled as she passed a group of new students, one of whom approached her timidly. "Are you Angel Peters?" the girl asked, her eyes wide with awe. "I am," Angel replied, kneeling to meet the girl's gaze. "And so are you, someone who can achieve anything." The girl's face lit up with hope, and Angel knew her legacy was secure.